Henrik, it is such a pleasure having you with us today. Thanks for joining in.
Martin, it's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Let's talk about Finoa, the digital asset platform you co-funded. It's booming. Tell me about how it got started and where it is now.
Well, yeah, we started actually during the MBA at IE, which was in 2017-18. And it was a project that I started with my co-founder, Christopher May, who's also an alumni from IE, actually. And we lived together in an apartment in Madrid. And we were both working at McKinsey before in the financial industry. We both started investing into crypto digital assets privately as a private investor. And we really didn't like the user experience back in the day. You know, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel secure. The whole market was unregulated. And that kind of started the conversation that we want to do something in the space. The technology was very intriguing, and the opportunity and potential we already identified in 2017. And then we started building what is now Finoa. And where do we stand today? Finoa is now Europe's, I think we can say that, Europe's largest crypto asset custodian for institutional investors and corporates. And we serve customers like venture capital firms, private equity, corporates like T-Systems, a subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom, or Rocket Internet, who start investing in crypto or have different use cases to deal with crypto and need a trusted and regulated partner to work with. And we do that here out of Berlin in Germany with about 50 colleagues now. So we have been growing since 2017 quite healthily, I would say.
So you already referred back a little bit to your consulting background. Obviously, spotting a niche and working to answer that need is essential for an entrepreneur, right? What role do you think did play your consulting background at McKinsey in sculpting the way you created the company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, one answer is somehow that probably because I was working in consulting and it was long days and a lot of traveling, I also really wanted to leave after the MBA. So I guess that kind of pushed my entrepreneurial spirit, because I was really thinking, okay, how can I make use of the MBA where I have the time to think about something else and a little bit beyond the horizon? And what do I want to do next? And that was one of the questions that I asked myself. And I do have to say, though, that the skill set and what I learned at McKinsey as a consultant, it really helped as well to take the decision into what kind of segment and what kind of industry I wanted to go. And I think that's actually a funny anecdote. Like when we started, the first thing that Chris and I kind of did was a market sizing. Because that's what we did at McKinsey, right? You always crunch the numbers and look at, what's the potential. So we ran some numbers, did some market sizing, some market projection. Where do we go? Think digital assets will go by, I think it was 2030. And we were so bullish also, obviously, in the model. Actually, now the market outperformed even our model back in the day, but that really helped us to say, okay, that's a market. It's growing. The overall competitive landscape is not fully built out. So let's go for it. And I think a lot of that was the thinking that I guess I learned during my time at McKinsey as well.
So you already referred to the growth, right? And that you were actually more successful than you thought at the beginning. Obviously, venture capital is an important source for this growth. And I know that you have raised quite an impressive amount of venture capital and have grown since then exponentially. Tell me or tell us a little bit more about this process.
Yeah, I mean, if you build a fintech and technology company, at the end, that's what we are. We're a technology company that provides financial services. You just need to raise capital to get it started, because there's no revenues in the beginning. My personal bank account wouldn't allow me for financing or bootstrapping a team to build out the technology and the product. So what you do is you reach out to venture capital. And we were lucky enough that in December 2019, we were able to raise our first seed funding round from some German venture capital firms. And then due to the trajectory that we built over the year 2020, despite of the global crisis, we then were lucky just about 3 months ago to raise our first Series A fundraise with a London-based venture capital firm, Boulder Capital, which, for example, is known also to be one of the first investors to Revolut. And we had fantastic conversations, and they were really committed to help us moving forward in building out our vision of bringing Finoa as a European company, but with global ambitions in the digital asset space. And yeah, that really helped us. That being said, we are now pretty proud that we have half a year of profitability already behind us. So that also for a fintech company happened much earlier than we also expected ourselves. So again, our business plan was kind of not exactly on point. Luckily, it was a bit to the positive, I would say. But anyway, we said, okay, we want to bring in venture capital with equity and help us investing into the team, investing into the product, because we do believe that you really need to invest for future success, for what's coming in 2, 3, 5 years. And that's exactly what we are doing now. We are building out the team, we are building out the product and the infrastructure to fulfill the vision that we kind of have in our head.
So first of all, congratulations for closing the last financing round. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual service, the actual offerings that you provide. So how do you see blockchain technology or custodian solutions answering the growing demand for digital security?
Yeah, that's, I mean, when I look back when we started, right, in 2017, and I mentioned already that we started Finoa as a custodian for digital assets because we didn't like our own user experience when investing. And that was basically the case because even a few €100 that I invested in 2016, 17 in crypto, I checked several times per day if those were still there, a few minutes later, because I was just not feeling right. And I think custodial solutions were kind of the key, let's say, turning point of also for the market to allow, for example, more traditional and institutional investors, which hold the majority of wealth in the world, to access the ecosystem, right? And because they need trustworthy counterparties, they need regulated counterparties, and we are a regulated custodian here in Germany. And that was a turning point in the conversation as well with the traditional financial participants. And when they learn, okay, there is now trustworthy partners, regulated partners, secure infrastructure and technology, that really then accelerates the decision-making process when they say, okay, I identified that blockchain as a technology and the underlying asset class like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are interesting and they're going to stay and they are good for diversification in my portfolio. They want to do that with trusted partners. And when they've identified that, they really started moving into the market. And you see that on a global basis now that with infrastructure and service providers stepping up their game, and Finoa is part of that, you now see the institutional adoption really accelerating.
Let me come to a slightly different point. And I was wondering what would be your response to some of the critiques that you sometimes hear that blockchain or some of the cryptocurrencies have actually no underlying value. How would you respond to that? Yeah,
I mean, we've heard that all along, right? And I mean, when we started in 2017, it was even much more because the market just tanked after reaching the all-time high back in the day of, or I think it was $20,000 in Bitcoin or per Bitcoin. And then the market tanked and everyone said, hey, crypto is dead and Bitcoin is dead and blockchain is overhyped. I mean, how do I answer to that? I mean, at the end, now Bitcoin is around for 12 years, right? Its trajectory, if you really look over the years and not just short term, it's only showing in one direction, right? It's growing in acceptance. It's growing in understanding that this is an entirely new asset class, which is, yes, fully digital. There is no underlying physical replication. It's intangible, but if we believe in a digital ecosystem, in a digital world, and at the end look at us, how much digital interaction we have, And there's also definitely a space for digital value. And at the end, Bitcoin was the first use case of actual real digital value without any intermediaries like central banks or whatsoever, kind of giving something in a hypothetical value, but value that was entirely created by a decentralized network, and that only the market participants give its value, right? And I think even though it's still volatile and fluctuating in terms of pure price, the technology, the value of this asset class is sticking around. And I think 12 years already show a good trajectory while it's still early. And what we strongly believe at Finoa as well is that the financial industry, but also beyond the financial industry, blockchain as a technology provides incredible use cases, and we will see any type of value. It might be financial assets, but it can also be non-financial assets. We see any type of value in the future, somewhat on blockchain and token basis at the end, because it's just a much more efficient, much more productive, much more global ecosystem, and decentralization as a concept, as an ideology, is also not going to disappear.
So as you already pointed out before, Finoa was born just after you finished your international MBA program. What part of your program was the most helpful for you as you confronted the realities of steering your startup to success?
Well, I think the IMBA really had a great impact on Finoa, because frankly enough, I really, as I said, I took the time also off from my work as a consultant to dive into new topics, into topics that I couldn't find the time in my daily work as a consultant. And the entrepreneurship angle that IE is offering to its students, it was tremendous for us, because we took the entire landscape basically of entrepreneurship at IE. We went into startup lab, we went into tech lab, we went into the venture lab, and really were able to spend our time on building out this idea, on writing our business plan, on kind of having market conversations, first iterations with potential customers. And all that was due to the ability and also the provisioning at IE of those courses, of the time as well to spend on building out an idea. And at the end, we still have also in our team a few members of our MBA intake. Back in the day, it was also the beginning of building out a team to work on the idea of Finoa. So I think the IMBA was really a very, very important point for us to get started and to move from the corporate jobs into entrepreneurship.
Obviously, resilience and creativity are crucial ingredients for entrepreneurs. How do you personally tap into your creative spirit?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, if you are in your day-to-day work, that's sometimes hard enough to actually, step a bit back, zoom a bit out, and think about again, what's actually the big vision and the big picture here, and where can I find the inspiration to also know not what's the next step for tomorrow and next week, but actually 6, 12, 18 months ahead. Well, personally, I think what definitely helps me is still sports. I mean, my hours are just as bad in terms of working as it was at McKinsey before, so that didn't really change, to be honest. But I still find my time to do sports, to kind of switch off from work a little bit, to clear out my thoughts. And then I enjoy cooking a lot. I think during the lockdown, especially in the pandemic, there was something that gave me a lot of sanity and also really to think about something else. And that's kind of where I think I can find some inspiration. But then, of course, and that's luckily coming back now, is here in Berlin, overall the startup ecosystem, meeting other entrepreneurs, having conversations about different ideas, about also problems that you face when building a company, and kind of learning from each other. That is also something that is incredibly helping and incredibly fruitful in a conversation, to learn just from other experiences and then to take away your own input from that.
Henrik, thank you so much for your time and obviously your insights. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been great to be here.